Hello everybody, welcome. Today is another story sharing video, but this one is going to be very special. Of all the stories I have written or are currently writing, there's one that is very close to my heart, is very personal to me. It's one that I published, but I'm rewriting and going to publish again. It's one that I'm continuously working on. I even upload new entries whenever I write them to YouTube and I record them. It's a story that I have shared with my family, with my friends. It's actually something that allowed me to make new friends and connections. This story has a special place in my heart. It's called Death's Diary. Death's Diary is almost exactly what it sounds like. It's not a super long narrative. Basically, consider if there is an angel of death. If there was an angel whose job is to ferry the souls of the dead to the next life. Let's say he could write in a diary about his experiences, about his thoughts, about his opinions, about his memories, about things he's gone through. What would he write? What would be in that diary? And the Death's Diary is simply writing that diary. I take on the role of Death, and I basically write in his diary different excerpts and thoughts and opinions and memories from his perspective. I first started the concept very early on in my DeviantArt career as a writer, where I was basically just getting started with different ideas about what death would be. Now, where the idea for this came from, various places. First of all, when I was growing up, I was afraid of death. But I remember my pastor saying once that death is not the end, it's a new beginning. Because from God's perspective, we are stuck in this mortal life, in a mortal world of pain, misery, sickness, war, famine, all that kind of stuff. We're stuck in this mortal life. Death, we look at it as something scary. And sure, yeah, it's an end to our mortal life, but it's also the beginning of our eternal life. Death is the bridge between this life and the next life. So while I wouldn't necessarily say, oh, look forward to it then. I'm just saying we should look at it in a new context. So I started thinking about death in a new way. I was kind of thinking about, okay, who is death? And I remember reading in the book of Exodus about God sending an angel of death to bring the death of the firstborn upon the Egyptians. Now, of course, some people say, no, it was God himself, or there is no specific angel of death. But let's play with the idea that there is an actual angel of death. There is a death, like an angel whose specific job is to do that. How did he feel about that incident? So I thought about it. I thought about how death probably felt going through the plague of the firstborn, what was going through his mind. I thought about, okay, well, what about the very first death with Cain and Abel? Like, how did he feel about that? Where did death come from? Was he born along with the other angels? Or was he born when man sinned, because that was the creation of death? Because before that, there was no death. In the book of Revelation, it says that death will be cast into the abyss. Does that mean that the angel of death must be thrown there too? Does that mean death is evil? But I thought that death was just a bridge. All these questions were flowing in my mind. I was thinking about all this stuff when it came to death. And then I remembered that I read a book called The Book Thief by Marcus Zizak, in which death is telling the story of a young girl in World War II Germany whose mother died and had to live with these people in a small town. And death really doesn't do a whole lot of talking himself, but you know that the narrator is death. And so I thought, that's what I want to do. I want to write from death's perspective. So I started writing, like I said, on DeviantArt, a couple of diary entries. At first, they were just small excerpts about who death was, what he looked like. And I said, death can look like whatever he wants. He's an angel. He can look like an old man, a little kid, a young woman, a teenage boy, a small girl. He can look like a dog. He can look like whatever he wants. Because death can take on whatever form it needs to. Gender, age, none of that matters to him. He's like, they're all just skins. Although a thought came to my mind while I was writing, and I thought maybe of all the forms that death takes, maybe his favorite is a little child. Because death was never a child. He came into the world and just started working, you know? But children have an innocence to them. Children don't always think about death. They don't think about the scariness of death. It fascinates them. Like a child will see a dead frog and approach it curiously. Children don't quite understand the concept of death yet. And because of that, there's kind of a naivete to being a child. And death, I thought, would probably relish that. Like, It's so nice to think that there are people out there who don't look at me with, oh, God, it's the angel of death. More like, who are you? I also thought about what kind of people would death meet? Would they see him? Would they talk to him? Would there be moments where death has a conversation with someone about to die? So I wrote one where death sits down with a girl who's about to die from leukemia, and he holds her hand. I had another one where he talks to an old war veteran who remembers him from the war and deliberately asks death to take the form he did when he was on the battlefield there. So death obliges him. Death also talks of spiritual matters, heaven, hell, stuff like that. He talks of memories that he's had in wartime, during plagues, during the Nazi Holocaust, all that kind of stuff. Basically, the sky's the limit. And now at first when I wrote these DeviantArt entries, I was taking requests to talk about specific things. But a friend of mine named Hannah Valdiabella, not the one who draws all the art for me, a different friend, she said, I really like it when death doesn't discuss his memories about certain events, but discusses how he feels about certain things. And then I realized I had kind of taken death into myself. And what I mean by that is when people say, who do you think of, if you could think of someone to play death, like if I were to make a movie out of my Death Diary series, who would I have play death? Me. Because death, when I write Death Diary entries, I just become death. It's not me writing my thoughts. I kind of have to shift my perspective to death. I have to look at things from his eyes, from his experiences, from his pain, from his pleasure, from his outlook on things. It's a very different way of approaching writing, for me especially, because I can usually, when I write a normal narrative, I can usually look at the characters and say, all right, this character will behave this way, this character will behave that way, this character will behave this way, but they're not me. They're a different person. I just know them well enough that I can write them. But with death, it's almost like we become one entity. I can't describe it, and it sounds really weird when I say it, but it's almost like I just understand death. For a brief period, I kind of step into that. There was one that I remember very clearly. Death is lonely. He wants to feel more involved with people, because one of the problems with being death is that no one likes to see him. No one is happy when he comes around, so he feels very ostracized. But there's a party going on and he's kind of curious about it, so he wants to go over there and join in the festivities. So he takes on the form of a young kid, walks over, and is about to knock on the door. And in that moment when he's about to knock, I just felt like, no, this is wrong. Death is scared at this point. I am scared at this point. Because if I knock on this door, what will they say? Will they recognize me as death? Will they chase me away? Will I be ostracized even further? Will the dream that I have die right here? Or will they open it up and let me in? And if they let me in, will I feel a part of it? I don't want the dream to die. So death runs. He flees from it. And it felt real. It felt like I was feeling that. It's very strange. And that's why Death's Diary has had such an impact on me. It's nothing super big or epic or world-changing, I would say, but it is an exploration of a character, an exploration of an outlook that I never thought of before. I love writing them. I love reading them, too. Having the chance to speak as Death has been very, very entertaining. And I love being able to talk from his perspective, especially when it comes to things like, politics and stuff. Death makes it clear. I couldn't care less about politics. You're all the same to me when I come for you. Like your money, your status, your title doesn't matter to me. I still will come for you one day, and I'll treat everyone the same. I don't pick favorites. And I even have Death talk on suicide. He says, it's selfish. Death is a selfish thing. Don't you think it puts more on my plate? What do you think? You think I'm going to be kinder than the rest of the world? You're basically letting the rest of the world know that you're too weak to try and live in it. So you're coming to me hoping that I'll be kinder. Trust me, I don't give anyone special treatment. It's one of those things. I really enjoy exploring who Death is and how he looks at things. That's what makes Death Diary so much fun for me. If you haven't listened to my Death Diary series, I will, if you wait till the end of the video, I will leave up a link to my series where you can read some of them or listen to me read them. I'm still building it. I'm still working my way through it. There's no larger narrative. There's not like, it's going to begin here and end here. Death is going to meet these people and it's going to be a long-running narration. No, I think it's really just going to be a long-running diary entry series, like just him talking about whatever comes to mind. That can both be a good thing because it means that I don't have to worry about continuity in terms of characters and interactions and stuff like that. But it is also a little bit difficult because I need to make sure that when I write each one, it's unique. I don't want Death repeating himself over and over again, which can be a little difficult because some circumstances can be very repetitious. And so I need to make sure that I'm careful with that. But still, it is a very fun thing to do, very fun thing to practice. I enjoy doing it. It is a phenomenal series. If you haven't listened to it and you would like to, I highly encourage you to do so. It would mean the world to me that you do. That is Death's Diary, probably the most special story I've ever written and the one that really got me going as a writer. It's something I still love. I enjoy working on it. So if you guys wouldn't mind checking it out, that would mean the world to me. Thank you guys so much for watching this video and for giving me your time, and I will see you in my next video. Take care.